Good morning and welcome to today's Pilates session. So we're going to do a 45-minute workout. So if you've got any devices that you're going to use, then I would select the Pilates mode now. We're going to start off with the feet nice and parallel. We're going to open up through those shoulders. We're going to keep that width across that body. So fingertips nice and long and lengthen. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to glide those shoulders up towards those ears, and then we're going to glide them all the way down. So we keep that length through that body. We're going to keep that gap between the chin and the chest. And for today's sessions, we're going to need some blocks and a band and a mat. So if you have any injuries, okay, I'd like you to work through a painful range of motion. Obviously, making sure that you've got consent from your doctor or physical therapist to make sure that you're okay to exercise, and only working with a range of motion that is right for yourselves for today. So, with no further ado, we're going to continue our warm-up. So I want you to make sure those bottom of the ribs are over the top of the pelvis. We're going to glide the shoulders up towards those ears, and we're going to glide them back down again. So we're going to slide them up and down. I'm going to keep that width across that body. We're going to keep that gap between the ears and the shoulders. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So you want to keep that width across that body, keep that length through that spine. I want to keep that head up nice and tall. Great. I'm going to do that 3 more times for 3, 2, and 1. Great. Now we bring those arms up in line with those shoulders. So I'm going to do this from the side so you can see. Again, I'm going to keep that rib cage nice and in line. So ribs over pelvis, feet nice in line with those hips. I'm going to take a nice deep breath in, and I'm going to circle around, and a big deep breath out. So today I want you to focus on keeping that length through that body, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. I want to keep that space between the rib and the hips. So we really want to keep that length all the way through, and we're just going to mobilise through those shoulders. Keeping that space between the ears and the shoulders at all times, finding a space to look up rather than looking directly down at your cameras, trying to look above your cameras. Keeping that head and that neck as long as you can, and keeping that weight distribution nice and equal. That's it, nice long fingers. Think about that breath, deep and wide. That's it, fantastic. And we've got another 4 to go. 3, 2, and 1. Brilliant. Now we're going to bring those arms down to the side, so just reset those feet for me. So feet parallel, arms down to the side, lift that head up nice and tall. And we're going to glide the fingertips down towards our knee, and then we're going to draw all the way back up. So you want to think that we're working through on that natural plane of motion to the right and to the left, keeping that space between the rib and the hips. So if your backs are a little bit stiff today, or they're a bit sort of niggly, then just focus on this range of motion. If they're not niggly, you may take your arm up towards the ceiling. So for example, you're going to reach the arm up, keeping that shoulder joint down. We're going to reach up and over, keeping that body nice and tall, keeping those hips nice and still. Again, we're going to be thinking about gliding those shoulders down towards the bottom, but not over pushing those shoulder blades down. We're going to keep that space between the rib and the hips. We keep that length through that body. We're going to keep that head and that neck nice and long. Think about that head being as tall as we can, keeping those abdominals nice and connected. So remember at all times to make sure that your room is nice and well ventilated, so you don't want it too hot and you don't want it too cold. At any time if you need to grab a drink, then grab a drink. And I'm just going to do it 1 more on each side. And reaching up. Brilliant. Now, we're going to make sure we're not going to bash our fingers around any light fittings or any bits of furniture or anything that you've got in your workout area. So feet nice and parallel. We're going to reach the arm up to the ceiling. We're going to rotate, allowing that hip to come forwards. We're going to bring the arm all the way around and back through. So we're going to reach it up, we're going to rotate round and back through. So again, we want to keep those shoulders nice and wide. So we want to think about like collarbones being east and west. Thinking about that space between the chin and the chest for me. And keeping that length through that body. Now we're going to start to make this a little bit more interesting. So we're going to start with our feet parallel. We're going to start at the bottom. So keeping the body nice and long, we're going to reach it up from that squat position. Keeping the abdominals contracted, rotate round. Bring that hand back down, touch the baby toe. We're going to reach it up, opposing side, around, through, and back down. We're going to reach it up, around, through, and down. And we're going to reach it up, open up across the shoulders, open across the chest, through, and down. Keeping that length through that body. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that space between the ears and the shoulders. Think about that head and that neck just being nice and long and lengthened. Brilliant. And we're going to do that for me 2 more times. Fantastic. Brilliant. So, coming back to our mats, we're going to have those feet nice and parallel. I'm going to do this slide on for you. So, we want to take the feet now to the outside edge width of your pelvis. We want to get those abdominals nice and connected, head is nice and tall. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out, we're going to sink that bottom down into that squat position. Now, we're going to drop the head down, and then we're going to roll up vertebrae by vertebrae, peeling up nice and slowly, contracting those abdominals, lifting up nice and tall, and resetting the shoulders each time. So, ribs are over pelvis, contract the abdominals. We're going to sink it back down, lengthening through that spine, keeping that weight connection nice and equal, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. Now, if you have lower blood pressure, come up a little bit slower. If you've been advised not to drop your head down at any time and just focus on the squat action, don't worry about the articulation and the rolling up phase of the movement. Keeping that width across that body for me. Lifting up nice and tall. Each time we get to the top, really elongate through that spine. So really get a nice neutral position. Rolling down. Tucking that head down. Lifting up vertebrae by vertebrae. Think about that space between the chin and the chest. Think about that gap between the ears and the shoulder. Really focusing on articulation. Think about that width across that body. Healing up nice and slowly. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Brilliant. Now we're going to focus on our plank series now. So we're going to have our feet at the end of the mat. We're going to do this into a plank walkout and a hold. And we're going to really focus on engaging through those abdominals, through the glutes, and really getting that front and back body of the body firing up and working. So first of all, we're just going to sink it down. If you have any slippery socks or anything like that, then obviously just take them off. We want to make sure you're not going to slip. And then when you walk out, we're going to walk it out until onto the end of your mat. So we want to make sure you've got plenty of space at either end of your mat. We're going to engage through the abdominals, engage through the glutes. We're going to soften the knees. Don't worry about if you've got any crunching or cracking going on your knees. And we're going to walk it back. And then we're going to rest our fingertips on the floor, and then we're going to pop the heels down and just push up. So we want to just get that different movement pattern firing up through that body. So we're going to sink it down, so lift the heels up, sink it down. We're going to walk it out into that nice bear crawl position. Drop those hips down, so we want to keep that width across that body, keep those toe muscles nice and engaged. Engage the glutes, and then we want to drop the knees down. Again, this is ways important you make sure these feet don't slide. And we're going to walk it back like a bear. Still staying on our tiptoes, and then we're going to push up and then let the heels drop down. So we're going to keep that width across that body, nice and smooth, nice and under control. We're going to walk it out. Keep that weight over the shoulders, engage the glutes, pull those toe muscles in. We're going to start to hold it for 4 seconds. We're going to drop the knees down, keep those abdominals nice and engaged, walk it back, and then we're going to push all the way up. So again, we're just going to get different movement patterns firing up. So engage those abdominals, keep those shoulders nice and open. We're going to sink it down. Again, can be fairly punchy, that's okay as long as it's pain free. So keep that width across that body, keep those toe muscles nice and engaged, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest, keeping that length through that body. And we're going to do this just 3 more times. Getting a nice big focus on engaging through those abdominals, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest, drawing it all the way up. Keeping that space between the chin and the chest. And we'll do it last time. Now we're going to hold this position here, and then once we've done those 4-second count, we're going to just pop the knees down, flatten your feet out, and then we're going to sink it back into that nice big stretch. And then we're going to roll it up. Lovely. So the next exercise we're going to do is going to be lying on our back. We're going to need to have your band. So that's your diamond band, so that's that nice long stretchy band. If you need to put a cushion underneath your head, then please do so. Because it's important to make sure we keep that alignment through that head and the neck. So let's come onto our backs first of all. Let's do a visual check around your room to make sure that you're not going to bash into anything. So that means wrapping your toes around any pieces of furniture or any pieces of equipment. And we're going to take that band and we're going to put that band around the foot. So with band safety, you want to make sure there's no nicks or any tears in the band. We want to make sure that our head and neck is nice and long and lengthened. So the band is going to support the waist of the leg. So the less band you have, less resistance you have on it, that means the more that you're doing the work yourself with the leg. Obviously, the more band on it, you're going to put more tension through that leg and you're going to support it a little bit more. So we're going to slide the leg away. Now, again, if you've got any back issues at the moment, just have that knee slightly bent to make sure you maintain that neutral position and don't let the knee drop out. So with that leg firmly up in the air and supported, we're going to have those shoulders drawing down. We're going to circle that leg around, obviously in a circle action. We're going to come across the body and back through. And then we're going to go anti-clockwise. So a number of factors will inhibit this movement pattern. So it will be tightness in the lower back, tightness in your hamstrings, backs of those thighs. So we want to keep that movement to a range of motion that is comfortable for you. So it might just be the size of a dinner plate moving into the size of a hula hoop. And if you've got any tension or any pulling into that lower back, again, just reduce the range of motion of the circle so it doesn't have to be as big. Remember, the band is there to help support, so you can focus on that movement pattern. And one more repetition. Lovely. So we're going to bend that knee, slide the other knee in, and then we're going to swap it over. So again, when you're swapping over, just again visually check your band. Because sometimes you don't always notice if there's like a tiny pinhole prick in the band or like a little snag at the edge of the band. And generally they will go like a wet tea-towel effect. And then we're going to circle through that leg. Again, just working through that pain-free range of motion. Keeping those abdominals nice and engaged. And you may find as you're doing the leg circle that different planes of motion across that action can be a little bit stiff, a little bit tight. So we get that space between the rib and the hips for me. Keeping that width across that body. And we're going to do 2 more. And last repetition. Brilliant. So we're going to slide that knee in, bring the other knee in, and then we'll carefully release that band and place the feet back down to the floor. So again, reset that neutral position. So each time we go to a different exercise, we reset the neutral position. So we have that pubic bone to landmarks nice and level. Again, making sure we've got plenty of space above our heads. So we're going to start with just a nice activation of the obliques. So we're going to roll through that pelvis, activating through the obliques, closing that gap between the floor and the spine, and back to that nice neutral position. So with your hands, place your hands on your pubic bone, heel of the hand onto the ASIS. And then we're going to roll it down. So we're looking at that pubic bone, and there's 2 bony landmarks at the top here. That closing and opening. So again, just keep an eye on that head and neck position. So again, we don't want to be ramming that head into the floor, and we want to think about just lengthening away from those thighs and drawing those knees away. Now we're going to start to take it into a bridge position, so we're going to start to roll up through that pelvis. We're going to lift those hips up, keeping that pressure into the feet, drawing up so we've got that connection with the rib and the hip, and that we're only going to keep that rib and hip over that pelvis. We're going to roll it down through that spine. Just be mindful of any necklaces or any tops that if they start to ride up and they get a little bit tight around the neck, we'll just adjust them accordingly. Open up through those hips for me, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that space between the rib and the hips. Just going to really keep that length through that body, open up through that joint. Really think about lengthening those thighs and those legs. So that helps to create a little bit more space around the hip. Again, if you feel like your feet have slid down a little bit, just pull them back. Again, different socks will sort of give you different levels of slipperiness. So if you feel like you're constantly moving, just take your socks off. And just try and not over-grip through those toes. So we're going to add on to this movement pattern now. So as we breathe out, we're going to roll that pelvis up. We're going to lift the hips up for me, taking the arms above the head, keeping that width across that body. And then we're going to roll down through that spine, 1 vertebra at a time. So we're going to leave the arms there to encourage and increase mobility through the upper back, and then we're going to bring those arms down to the side. So we're going to breathe out, we're going to roll it up, and lift up through those hips, open up through that hip joint, keeping the arms nice and long and lengthened, and then we're going to roll it down. And bring the arms all the way back over. So allowing that pelvis to roll, lift up through the spine, taking the arms nice and long and lengthened above the head, rolling it down. Bring those arms back over. Brilliant. So we're going to do this just 2 more times. And 1 more time. Brilliant. So we're going to just scoot down. We're going to grab your bands. Just again, just do a quick check that you're not going to catch anything in bits of furniture. We're going to double your band over. That way we have no band flapping in our faces. So we're going to start with the band onto our thighs. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to take the arms above the head. So again, we're going to keep those shoulders drawing down, ribs over pelvis. We're going to breathe out, we're going to bring the arms down to the thighs. And we're going to have a tiny bit of tension onto that band. So you want to pull that band to the right and to the left. Again, working through a pain-free range of motion through those shoulders. Gentle little pulls on that band to the right and to the left. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Brilliant. Now we're going to add on to this movement pattern. So as we breathe out, we're going to curl up through that breastbone. We're going to keep those eyes looking in between the knees, keeping that pelvis nice and neutral. I'm going to rest that band onto the thigh. Then we're going to breathe out. We're going to take it all the way back over, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So a nice big flexion through that breastbone, keep those abdominals in nice and tight. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So keep that head and that neck nice and long. Think about that space between the ears and the shoulders. Think about that length through that body. Really keep that nice big deep engagement through those abs. that space between the chin and the chest. If you need to have a little rest, then do so. Lovely. Now this time we're going to start with the arms at the top. I'm going to slide the leg out. And then as we breathe out, we're going to curl it up, slide it up a bit like it. I'm going to breathe out, slide the leg out, lengthen away. Big deep breath out. I'm going to curl it up. So keeping that width across that body for me. Keeping that head and that neck nice and long. Again, still keeping that tension through that band. Making sure that you're not going to wrap your toes around any bits of furniture. Again, just in case you've migrated up your mats. And last repetition. Even it up to make sure you're nice and equal. Fantastic. Right, so pull that band across your tummy point. Give those hands a little bit of a shake, wiggle jiggle. Right, so we're going to keep the band going across the pelvis just to help us with keeping that stability across the pelvis and giving us a visual check to make sure that we're not drifting or rocking too much. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to float that knee up to 90 degrees. We're then going to bring the second leg up to join it. Again, keeping those abdominals nice and connected. And then we're going to place that foot down. And then we're going to place that foot down. So we're going to take it on a nice deep breath out, draw it up. And then the next out breath, come up. Again, keeping that nice neutral position. Make sure that natural curve in the lower back, the upper back. And thinking about that posture across those shoulders. So we're going to draw it up. Keep it nice and long, down, and then down. So again, keep your empty down, what's nice and level, contracting through those abdominals, keeping that space between the rib and the hip, keeping that length through that body, keeping that gap between the ears and the shoulders. Again, just having a good connection to feel across those abdominals, not just around that belly button area, okay? Remember your abdominals come from your pubic bone all the way underneath the bottom of the ribs. It's a nice big area that needs to be focused on. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that width across that body. Again, making sure that you don't rock that pelvis and arch. So you want to really keep this nice connection. So use your hands to check. Remember to breathe. Keeping that width across that body for me. And I'm going to do that one more time. Brilliant. So replacing those feet, make sure they're back nice and parallel. Grab hold of that band for me. And we're going to get some activation through those obliques. So again, keeping that nice neutral pelvis for me. We're going to take the arms back above the head. Now we're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to reach over to that diagonal position. So you want your hand to rest on the top of the knee. We're going to take it all the way back over and back to centre. Then we're going to reach it up. We're going to come over, so the hand goes on the top of the knee. And we're going to take it all the way back over. And then we're going to nice big stretch in between. Reach it over. And back through. Keeping that width across that body. Keeping that chest nice and open. Nice long arms. Really think about that space between the rib and the hips. And we're going to do that one more time on each side, please. Brilliant. And we're going to place that band down to the floor. We're going to roll ourselves up, so give those knees a quick cuddle. And we're going to come into that all fours position. So, again, making sure we've got plenty of space around us. So yeah, always good just to make sure that you haven't migrated up and down your mat in terms of safety, that you're not going to wrap your fingers around anything. So we're going to start from that nice all fours position. So let's recap that position. So knees are in line with your hip, make sure we're not starting to sink too far back. We're going to keep the wrists, the elbows and the shoulders in line. Engage through those abdominals for me. Keeping that length through that body. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to lengthen the arm and the leg away. We're going to breathe out. We're going to draw it all the way back in. Take a nice deep breath in. Breathe out. Lengthen away. So we're going for length, not height. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Keeping that space between the rib and the hips for me. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. through that body. Nice long arms, nice long legs. Brilliant. And we'll do that just 2 more times. And this is your last side. And then we're going to just sink down to our heels. I've got the knee down. Sink it down, nice big stretch. Lengthen those arms away from the body. Then we're going to take our bottoms under and then roll up. Lovely. And we'll keep that chest nice and open. We're going to come to our knees. We're going to open up through that rib cage. So knees come to be wide apart, palms are in. We're going to get a nice big rotation through that body and back to centre. And to the other side and back to centre. Keeping that width across that body for making that gap between the chin and the chest. And that head and neck is nice and open. And we want to keep that width across that body, keeping those hips nice and square for me, keeping that length through that body. And we have 1 more on each side, please. Brilliant. Now, we're going to stretch out, so we want to make sure we get a really good stretch through that body. So again, just make sure you put those bits of equipment one truly out of the way. So we're going to start with our hip flexors. So we're going to take that leg out in front. We want to drop the weight forwards. At the same time, rather than just pushing that weight forwards, we want to just lift it back a little bit and try and draw upwards out of that hip joint to get a nice big stretch through here. We're then going to take the arm up, continue that stretch. Imagine you're trying to really lift out of that hip joint. We're then going to reach over to the side. If you need to place your hand on your thigh for a bit of support, do so. And when we get back to that centre point, we're going to switch it over. So swap the legs over, take that leg out in front. We're going to drop that weight forward. Again, lift up out of that hip joint, reach the arm up, get that stretch first in that vertical position. Lift up out of that joint, reach it over, get that nice big lateral stretch. And then back to that centre point, and then we're going to draw it up. So we're going to come to a standing position. So if you need to hold on to anything for this stretch, please do. We're going to bring that ankle up to the bottom. We're going to tuck those hips forward. So once the knee is into the opposite knee, we're going to just gently lift those hips forward. So we get a nice standing quadricep stretch with just a little bit of extra stretch onto that hip flexor. Brilliant. And then we're going to place that foot down. We're then going to bring the ankle up. We're going to tuck those hips forwards. We're going to get a nice big stretch through those hips. Lovely. We're then going to stretch out that upper back. So we're going to interlock those fingers for me. I'm going to do it so that you can see on the side. We're going to draw the shoulders down, feet nice and parallel, knees are soft. We're going to round through that upper back and get that nice big stretch, trying to separate through those shoulder blades. Lovely. Then we're going to stretch across the chest. We're going to bring those hands behind the body. We're going to interlock the hands. We're going to draw the shoulders back. We're going to reach the arms up, keep that ribcage over the pelvis for me. Keep that length through that body. Reach and look up towards the ceiling and just increase that stretch along that front line of the body. Lovely. Now we bring those arms across the body, so shoulders draws down. Take the arm across, pull on the forearm. So you want to pull on the forearm or your triceps back to the arm are not on the joint. And then we'll take it across the body. Nice big stretch through. Brilliant. And then we reach that arm all the way up to the ceiling. Get that nice big stretch into the triceps. So very gently pull underneath the elbow and get that stretch into the triceps. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. Brilliant. And then we'll stretch out through those calf muscles. So we'll take that right foot in front. We'll have that left foot behind. We're going to drop that weight forwards. Then we're going to just take the hinge at the hip just a little bit further forwards. Increase that stretch going down the back of the calf. If your heel doesn't want to stay down, let it lift, don't force it. Because you don't want to put any pressure on the Achilles tendon. And we'll switch the legs over. Some days you have a bit more flexibility than others. And then we're going to drop that weight forwards. Brilliant. And from here, we're going to go into our hamstrings. So we're going to step in. We're going to sink it back. So you're going to keep the foot nice and flat. Hand rests on the thigh. The knee is nice and bent. And then we're going to switch the legs over. So I'm just going to get on diagonal here. And then we're going to sink it down. So again, nice big stretch through. Lovely. So we've got to a standing position still. Feet that come shoulder width apart. We're going to take a nice big deep breath in. We're going to breathe it out. We're going to reach up nice and tall. And then we'll do the same again. Reach it down. Lift up nice and tall. Elongate through that spine. And then we'll take it all the way down and up. Lovely. And that's the end of your workout for today's session. So obviously make sure that you put all your bits and pieces away nice and safely. And obviously I hope you enjoyed today's session. And we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Have a great rest of your day and see you soon. Bye bye.